There were a multitude of socialist thinkers before Marx and Engels. The 19th century saw the emergence of many philosophers and idealists who are often referred to as Utopian Socialists. A good example of this being the works of Pierre-Joseph Proudhon. It is in the works of the Utopians that a multitude of tendencies can trace their origins, chief among them being anarchism. The Utopians were often metaphysical and idealist in their criticisms of capitalism and their analysis of the state. Because the Utopians lacked a scientific/material basis for their critique of capitalism and with their class analysis, their models were often steeped in metaphysics and idealism. Nowadays, there are a multitude of tendencies within socialism which still reject the contributions of Marxism, and because of this are severely diminished in their capacity to correctly analyze capitalist society or contribute to revolutionary science as a whole. The Utopians had a very limited scope in their analysis because they lacked the analytical tools of dialectical and historical materialism, which provided a grounded material model for analyzing social phenomenon and the history of social development. Therefore, within utopian thought, there are a myriad of assumptions and idealized notions, not only of the class struggle but also of the state, which are divorced from concrete reality. Marxism. It was not until the mid-19th century that Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels developed a body of knowledge and principles which resulted in the emergence of scientific socialism by splitting away from utopian socialism. This is due to the formation of dialectical and historical materialism, which sought to strip the idealistic aspects of Hegel's dialectics and combine it with materialism. Rather than treating ideas and human thought as separate from material reality, the injection of materialism into dialectic analysis brought the insight that ideas and the mind itself is a product of reality, not separate from it. This brought about an analytical method to examine the contradictions and conflicts within human society in a scientific way without resorting to metaphysical interpretations. This also allowed Marxists to study the development of human history as a series of contradictions and conflicts over the means and relations of production. These contradictions gave rise to various class struggles occurring across history. It was through the theoretical lenses of dialectical and historical materialism which enabled Marx and Engels to describe the nature of class struggle within capitalist society and throughout history with a grounded analytic. This also led Marx to formulate the labor theory of value, which described in concretely scientific detail how capitalism exploited the working class and how various economic mechanisms worked, building on the works of non-socialist economists such as Adam Smith and David Ricardo. Marx and Engels used the tools of dialectical and historical materialism to produce a revolutionary science, Marxism. The revolutionary core of Marxism derives from the class struggle, how the working class, the proletariat, and the capitalist class, the bourgeoisie, emerged from feudalism's transition into capitalism and are caught in a dialectic struggle with one another. This conflict results in inherent antagonistic contradictions within capitalist society that will naturally lead to unrest and will only reach resolution with a revolution of the proletariat against the bourgeoisie. Upon the success of the proletarian revolution, capitalist society, also known as the dictatorship of the bourgeoisie, will be replaced with a socialist society, also known as the dictatorship of the proletariat. During the lifetime of Marx and Engels, a world historic revolution, meaning a revolution in which universal principles and lessons could be derived, occurred within the short-lived Paris Commune of 1871. The successes and failures of the Paris Commune provided an example for Marx and Engels to study and critique, allowing them to further refine their theories. After the death of Marx and Engels, those who accepted their ideas became known as the Marxists, and the revolutionary science of Marxism was solidified. Before this time, Marxism was simply called scientific socialism. Marxism-Leninism. Over time, the successors of Marxism split into two broad camps. The revisionist camp, led by Karl Kautsky, and the revolutionary camp being led by Vladimir Lenin. Lenin further developed the ideas of Marx and Engels, forming the idea and working principles of a vanguard party of the working class that would lead the proletariat to victory and seize state power. Lenin also provided an updated analysis of the state of capitalism in the early 20th century and how it had developed into a higher stage, that of capitalism-imperialism, also called imperialism. Lenin wrote on the liberation of oppressed nationalities and the necessity of the proletariat seizing state power in the construction of socialism. This led to the emergence of the Bolshevik Party, and those who supported the Bolshevik line became the leaders of the world historic October Revolution and the Russian Empire. After the death of Lenin, his successor, Joseph Stalin, would synthesize his works into a body of knowledge and universally applicable principles known as Marxism-Leninism, a second and higher stage of Marxism. Joseph Stalin and Mao Zedong continued to develop the ideas and principles of Marxism-Leninism. Mao's contributions formed as a result of the world historical Chinese Revolution and became known as Mao Zedong thought. After the death of Stalin, and under the leadership of Nikita Khrushchev, the Soviet Union would undergo a revisionist deviation from the revolutionary core of Marxism-Leninism, and the revolutionary line would be upheld by China, by Mao and his supporters. After the death of Mao, the right opportunists within the Communist Party of China would implement a similar revisionist deviation under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping, resulting in the global decline of the international communist movement until the birth of Marxism-Leninism-Maoism in the 1980s and early 1990s. As of now, there has yet to be a world historical revolution that surpasses the advancements of the Chinese Revolution. It may also serve to clarify that Lenin did not refer to himself as a Marxist-Leninist, but rather a Marxist. Marxism-Leninism, as a distinct higher stage of Marxism, was not yet synthesized until after Lenin's death. And, as previously highlighted, Mao did not refer to himself as a Maoist, but rather a Marxist-Leninist, as Maoism was not synthesized until after Mao's death by the Communist Party of Peru in the 1980s. Confusingly, the terms Leninism and Stalinism are used by Trotskyists, themselves an offshoot of Marxism. This will be covered in a future video. Marxism-Leninism-Maoism. After the illegal dissolution of the USSR in 1991 and the descent of the People's Republic of China into revisionism following the death of Mao in 1976, neoliberalism was hastily declared the end of history by bourgeois analysts. Groups such as the Communist Party of Peru, the Communist Party of Nepal Maoist Center, were unfortunately unsuccessful in bringing forth a Maoist revolution in their countries. However, groups such as the Communist Party of the Philippines, the CPP, and the CPI Maoist in India, CPI-M, are actively undergoing protracted people's wars which continue to this day. The PCP and other constituents of the revolutionary internationalist movement derived universally applicable principles by studying Mao Zedong thought and adapting these ideas to solve problems of the modern post-Soviet era. These principles are namely the mass line, socialist practice and acquiring of knowledge, line struggles within the party, and analysis of contradictions, revolution through people's war, principles of new democracy, and the necessity of cultural revolution with the insight that class struggle continues under socialism. Each of these ideas will be elaborated on in future videos. Although anti-capitalist revolutions and resurgences have emerged since the 1990s, only Maoism can bring forth a successful socialist revolution of world historical significance. Maoism is a relatively new stage of Marxism, and will require a great degree of study, discipline, and experimentation in order to realize a Maoist revolution. Maoism is revolutionary communism of the modern revisionist era in the time of global neoliberalism. As Maoist parties are currently fighting to build socialism in the modern world, other parties are either adopting revisionism and abandoning revolution in favor of the capitalist road, or they lack the theoretical framework provided by Maoism to successfully complete and consolidate the socialist revolutions in their countries, or to advance beyond the limitations of the Chinese Revolution. Thank you so much for watching this episode. In part 4, we will discuss dialectical and historical materialism. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Danky Kang out.